Hello, I'm Somi Arian. I'm a tech philosopher, author, filmmaker, and the founder of Impeak. My guest on today's podcast is Krish Jagirdar, co-founder of Internet Game, a super interesting Web3 gaming initiative where players can have a lot of fun playing while also having the possibility of winning some fantastic prizes. I discovered Krish through Gmoney's team, since Gmoney will be hosting their game in the coming season and he has also invested in the company. I was curious to learn more about the concept and their business model. So Krish, let's get into your project a little bit, Internet Game. So the reason we are having this conversation is because I didn't know about your project, and the team at Gmoney, Gmoney's team, at Mid1, they brought it to my attention. So it piqued my interest because if they're behind it, I want to know why they got behind it, and what did you do to gain their interest? And I thought this would be a good opportunity for you to tell me about it so I learn more about it, and also our audience learn more about it.
Amazing. Well, yeah, first of all, Somi, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and a pleasure to speak with you and really just kind of share the story of Internet Game. And so I think the most important thing I think to know about us is really about our origin and really the foundation of where we came from. Because unlike a lot of projects that you do see in the space, we didn't come at Internet Game with this whole idea of like, let's start an NFT project or let's start a Web3 project, but rather it was something where we were really interested in this thesis that we had, which was around the convergence of social media and casual gaming, right? There's just this kind of movement towards this kind of singular point where basically right now, when you look at media, whether it's traditional media or social media, it's essentially happening to you. But we basically came up with this thesis just really from looking at a bunch of different trends in the macro space, in which the future of consumer social would be essentially incentive based, it would be community driven, and it would be interactive. And so my co-founder Jordan and I really kind of got together and we're really interested in this particular idea of or exploring what this could look like. And for us, what had happened was we started messing around. This is really about a year ago, where we started messing around with this whole idea of kind of casual gaming and live streaming, right? Because we thought this was just like a really interesting way where we could have this two-way channel again, just like we're going to have a two-way conversation, where it allows for this much more interactive experience. And so for us, it was this thing where we're fooling around with different types of expressions of this, but then something very funny happened, which was this like tiny little show on Netflix came out of South Korea, right? This tiny little show on Netflix came out and then just took the world by storm, right? And so no prizes for guessing. It's Squid Game. And so for us, this was really amazing because again, it was this global phenomenon and people had really just really attached this whole idea of playing these fun casual games, but for the chance to win $30 million, right? Like that was the whole premise of the show. But yeah, you also might die, but that doesn't happen in our game. But for us, it was like, wow, this is this really amazing backdrop as to to kind of describe what we're doing. So basically, that's essentially how Internet Game was born. It was this ability to really kind of utilize NFTs, utilize Web3, and build the kind of Squid Game for the metaverse, Squid Game for Web3, Squid Game for NFTs. And I find that to be such a kind of funny little statement as a way to kind of explain what we are. But that's just because, again, like 5 years ago, if I said Squid Game for NFTs, that like doesn't make sense to you, but like now it just immediately clicks, right? And as a marketer myself, I was like, this is a really easy way just to get this idea in front of thousands and thousands of people in the space. And so, when we came across G's desk, which was in December of last year, gosh, holy crap. And he immediately got it, right? I think he really kind of saw that we were exploring what we refer to as the practical applications of NFT technology. We were utilizing NFT. We were like doing something more than the kind of traditional NFT project, which is like, hey, we did a mint, here's our generative PFP, and trade it ad nauseum on OpenSea, right? It was something where we actually did our mint. We took 60% of our mint and put it towards a prize pool, and then delivered on 5 games over 5 days, which took about a month, and then delivered $1 million worth of NFTs to people. But I think the most important thing from season 1, which is what we did this past March, was that, again, we were able to give away this $1 million worth of NFTs. We were able to make like 100 plus people extremely, extremely happy. But again, of the thousands of people that played, the unanimous thing that we found was that people just had the most fun. Oftentimes people would say, this is the most fun thing I've done in Web3. So that's really kind of what's brought us here today. Now we've essentially scaled our team. We're like 3x the size. We just like finished about like a $5-7 million round, which is really exciting. And now we're gearing up for season 2 with Gmoney as the actual host of the season.
That sounds really cool, because I am aware from talking to a lot of gamers that one of the biggest problems of blockchain gaming is that nobody has actually cracked the code of actually making it fun. That it's like this idea of play to earn. Okay, now I know that many people are trying to call it play and earn, so that it's like so that it's like less about the money and more about the fun. But it was my understanding that nobody has actually overcome that. Now, I want to give you a little bit of a background about myself in this case, in that I haven't played any, I don't play games. I've never played any video games. I have had like 5-minute experience with Minecraft, and that was with my ex's children, and that was about it. So I want to try and understand exactly what the game is. So let's say I want to participate. So what do I do? Do I go and buy one of your tokens, and then is there like a social element to it that I can do with my friends? So how does that work?
Yeah. So, well, there's, your background and even the question you posed, there's a lot to unpack there, right? So I want to kind of go through it in order. And so, again, a lot of people say, and again, they'd come into our Discord even during season 1, and they'd be like, "Oh, I'm a pro gamer. I'm going to be amazing at this." And I'm like, "That's not going to help you." And then, at the same time, someone comes in, it's like, "I don't play games. I'm not sure if I should be able to do this." And like, what we'd actually say is, our games are casual in nature, right? So again, here's a fun little fact for you, right? When you think about like gaming and blockchain gaming, video games in general, people will often be like, they think about like the 13-year-old playing the Xbox or the person on the computer with their headset on, but actually that makes up a smaller section or like a smaller kind of cohort of the gamer in general, right? Like Fortnite has 70 to 80 million monthly active users, while something like Candy Crush actually has 275 million monthly active users, right? So the things that, like, for us, we really care about accessibility. We care about games that are for everyone, games that are easy to understand and that are accessible to really all demographics of people, right? Inside of our tagline is games that your grandma could play. Right. And, for us, games have existed for a millennia, right? The first card deck came about in like 1100 AD. And so, like, whether, again, it's a video game or something like Minecraft, which is obviously, really in depth, or again, something like Monopoly or something like, again, I don't know, Rummy, right? These are all games. So again, in some shape or form, everyone's a gamer because it's just something that it's like it's in our DNA. And so for us, when we approach games, it's not really about building this metaverse or this first person shooter or like a I don't know, World of Warcraft. We actually are building these kind of fun, simple, like Nintendo style games, right? That literally anybody can play and anyone can be good at, anyone can pick up really, really easily. And that's so important for us because we want to be able to access the entire world, right? Like for us, it's about onboarding the masses into Web3. So that's the way that we approach our games. In order to participate in internet games, so we actually have these kind of seasons as we do it, right? We'll actually end up doing 3 more this year alone, which is pretty exciting. You could basically participate in our mint, which takes place on August 30th. And that basically is your ticket to play, right? And that's, again, the way that we utilize NFTs is that NFT actually represents you in the internet game, which is really a tournament or like a stringing together of different games. And so on day 1, you'll play one game. On day 2, you'll play another game. On day 3, you'll play another game. And then we're going to have this finale with Gmoney hosting, which is going to be super exciting. But the thing is that your point score is actually, cumulative in terms of how did you do in game 1? How did you do in game 2? How did you do in game 3? And then how did you do in the finale? And that's what will determine your overall placement in the game. So, for us, it's really just about participating in the public sale to be able to participate in season 2.
Okay, so each season, the number of days that the game is played is 4 days. Is it like that?
No, so I mean it varies, right? So like again, and that's the reason. That's again, this is the cool thing about us in general. Like, this is the cool thing about us. One of the things that I really like about being called internet game is that we're abstract, right? Like the only thing that we really need to be is a game on the internet. In terms of the way that we deliver it and approach it, it's something that where we essentially evolve or explore different types of ideas, right? So in season 1, we basically had 5 different games. In season 2, we're going to have 6 different games. We're going to have 3 games on 3 different days, and then we're going to have 3 games in 1 hour, which is going to be this crazy experience. But for example, in October, we're doing another internet game with a very large like entertainment conglomerate, and that'll be 3 games over 3 days, right? And then again, whatever we end up doing in December with another large NFT project, will vary in its nature. So for us, it's really about exploring different types of game types, different types of models. I would say the only constant is that our games are casual in nature and like skill based and accessible to everyone. So I promise you, Somi, like you'll be able to do very well in our games, right? Like even if you say I'm not a gamer, I don't get Minecraft, I don't get Fortnite, you'll be able to play these games, no problem. And then the other component that I think is a constant when it comes to our seasons is this whole idea of this tournament style experience, right? And I think this is probably one of the most exciting things about internet game, because it's this thing that like will exist in your daily, like again, when we live our daily lives, we wake up, we go to the gym, we go to work and all this kind of stuff. Internet game is like this thing that is actually existing on top of your daily life, right? So it's not this thing where it's like, oh, maybe I'll play some video games later, right? It's not this thing that's like a part of your daily life, but rather this experience, right? Like we refer to ourselves as like the Coachella of the internet, right? It's like this thing that you're going to. It's this interactive game show that is for everybody and all around the world at the same time.
Okay, that's super interesting. How many people play each time? And is it like everybody has to play at the same time?
No. So again, you're in the UK. I'm in New York City. Someone's in, someone watching this is in Los Angeles. We all have different lives. We all have availability at different times. There's, dads in the game. There's dads that are playing this. There's people in school. There's people with very demanding jobs, and there's people like, just hanging out. And so for us, the way that we want to be, again, highly accessible. That's like one of our kind of key values as a company. And so accessibility not only means like, hey, are these games for everyone? Can everyone have fun playing these games? Can everyone get these games? The other component to it is really, again, this thing where I don't require you to spend 8 hours a day playing or 4 hours a day playing, or this is not something where if you don't practice, you're going to get crushed by the competition, because no one knows what they're walking into. That's kind of one of the crazy things about it, is like the games are a surprise, right? So you walk in, you're like, what am I doing? And we only require 15 minutes of your time, 10 to 15 minutes. You log your score and then you're done for the day and you go back to work, you go do your thing, you go live your life. But at the same time, because people are in different kind of like parts of the world, we have this like basically a 24-hour window in which you log on, you do your thing, and then you're done. Right. And the question is, and like, so you only have a certain amount of tries per game, et cetera. So we really kind of minify the experience for you, so it doesn't require a big burden of your time.
Do you see a day where these types of activities could replace like the kind of TV quizzes, like the way that people participate, vicariously through watching TV? Like, is there a way that one day you could have a larger audience watching others play?
Oh, for sure. And I think like, again, you see it already in like kind of Web2 traditional media formats, right? Like it's kind of crazy, but like reality TV has so many different components to it. And one of the aspects of reality TV has already become this like kind of voting thing, right? So vote for your favorite contestant and all this kind of stuff. And people are like texting in and doing things. So that's a way that a participant can actually become a decision maker inside of this kind of reality-based TV show. But those are oftentimes these like high production value things. Simultaneously, for whatever reason, people love to watch people play on these various game shows. These game shows have existed for decades and decades and decades, right? Like The Price is Right, Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, Deal or No Deal, et cetera, right? And I think in a lot of ways, like we watch it because of the vicarious nature of it, right? And it's the same reason that Squid Game was such a big hit globally, is because it's like, whoa, like what would like, there's a lot of people that like flirt or like romanticize the idea of being stuck in this like kind of crazy ass experiment where they're competing for life-changing amounts of money, but they also might die, right? It's this kind of crazy thing that we see again when we're watching Who Wants to Be a Millionaire. So for us, again, I think, again, as people talk about the metaverse and 3D versions of the internet and things like that, what you really see is that there is just this general macro trend of moving towards interactive media, right? Just interactive entertainment. And so for us, internet game in a lot of ways is just like a rendition or an expression of that, where we are this interactive game show where you're in the hot seat, but from the comfort of your own home.
Okay, cool. I feel like I need to play it to understand fully, and really get my head around it. So, from the viewpoint of people buying into your tokens. So tell me, what happened to the season one tokens? Do they burn like after the game finishes and they
Yeah.
are not valuable anymore? How does it
No,
work?
so that's a great question. So basically, the season one tokens in a lot of ways are what we refer to as our Genesis tokens, right? So this is like a very interesting topic in general in the space, because again, we had what you can refer to as like NFT 1.0 over the last year, right? And that was really just kind of this first rendition of, hey, NFTs are now a thing, utility is a thing, generative PFPs are a thing, digital scarcity is a thing, and like let's do a bunch of experiments in this space to kind of see where it takes us. And I think that like the interesting thing about the space is that there like 90% of NFTs from NFT 1.0 will end up being like what I refer to as like unintentional rugs, in the sense that like, again, the founders, when they or the project devs, when they did launch the project, they're like, hey, here's our generative PFP. Here's this idea that we want to execute on. Please mint our NFT and we will use those funds to execute on this idea. But then what's going to end up happening is they're going to run out of funds, right? And it's a very simple thing, like very similar to, again, a pre-seed or seed stage startup that raises money, tries to do something, and it either does or does not work. And they either do or do not make it to the next stage. And so, for us, I think what we see here is that like there is this kind of juxtaposition of this whole idea of utility, jam-packed value, forever utility. And like really what I do is I kind of question like, how much of a reality is that truly? Like, is that really actually possible? And I think what you're going to find is as you kind of move, as we again move towards NFT 2.0, you're going to see that, okay, cool. There are things like utility. There are things that where you can generate value, but that doesn't mean that you are forever going to just play for free and things like that. Like that's just not because it's just like, where would the money come from? Quite literally, right? It's just the buck needs to stop, like come from somewhere, right? And I think that's why when you reference play to earn type games, the money was coming from the people that were getting into the game later on, right? And basically you had growth and the rewards and the prizes being indirectly correlated from one another. So the more popular it got, the rewards would go down, the expense of participating in the space would go up, and again, it was just the buck was just getting passed down and down and down. And so, for us, what we want to really explore here is like, what is this whole world of sustainable blockchain gaming? And that does require, buying in, right? When FIFA 1 comes out, you buy FIFA 1, FIFA 2 comes out, you buy FIFA 2, so on and so forth. So that's a long-winded way of answering your question, but I think my point is that our season one collection is basically our perpetual list. So what that does is if you own a game token from season one, that provides you with our perpetual whitelist, which allows you to participate in future seasons at a discounted rate. We also have something known as the Metaverse Access Card. There's only 550 of these, and they're extremely, extremely scarce, but that provides you with basically free access to all future internet game seasons. So, for us, it's like you can look at it as like a whitelist and you can look at it as an OG list, but that's actually tradable. And that's the utility that they provide.
I think that's fair enough. I agree with you that this idea of perpetual utility is not sustainable. And then, of course, there is the model where people pay a small amount in the beginning, and then they expect forever airdrops and things that it's just like not sustainable. A business has to be able to make money.
And I think that's the big problem. I refer to this as like there's going to be this period where it's like the re-education of the NFT consumer. And so for me, I think it's like a lot of people can try and go down the Bored Ape model, right? Like they are basically the exception to the rule in a lot of ways, right? They've done hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue from, again, their mints, from their drops, from the secondary sales. And then on top of that, they've raised hundreds of millions of dollars in venture capital. So, for any like aspiring NFT project or dev to try and be like, that is the way to go, it's not going to work, because you're not going to have the revenue or the secondary sales or the volume from that, like from those kinds of things, to be able to just forever just kind of provide utility. You're going to run out of money. And simultaneously, I think a lot of folks in the NFT space from the consumer perspective are not really thinking about the fact that these companies need to be businesses as opposed to not-for-profits, where let's take 100% of the revenue and put it back into the community. Let's take 100% of the secondary sales and put it back into the community, because then it's like, as a project dev, why on earth would I spend my time doing this? There's no reason to, right? People, even in my community, would be like, hey, like, why don't you just take all the secondary sales and use that to fund future internet game prizes. I'm like, well, first of all, there's like 200 grand worth. Like, what are we gonna like? We want to all play for one Bored Ape? Like, sure, right? But like, that's not fun. That's not exciting. And then what? So like that's the issue with the space in a lot of ways.
I'm glad you mentioned about the re-education of the NFT community. I think this is something that as new people come into the space, they're going to look at us and they're going to look at the early, NFT buyers and think, what were they thinking? Like this is just not sustainable. And I do think, like you say, there are a few OGs like the Bored Apes, that they have been maybe an exception, maybe a few others, Proof, for example, possibly, but even look at like even Proof is having a lot of this when utility kind of constant pressure. Okay, so tell me a little bit more about the business model. So let's say if I was going to buy the NFT, whether the season 1, season 2, if I was going to buy or mint that NFT, if I wasn't going to be playing, would you say that I shouldn't buy it? Is there any point in buying the NFT if you're not actually playing?
I mean, as a speculator, yes. You know what I mean? Like there's definitely, if you're just an NFT speculator, I would 100% buy the metaverse access card. Again, no financial advice and all this kind of stuff. But like, again, it's this hyper scarce NFT that provides people with free access to internet game in the future, right? And it's only 1.1 ETH, right? And the things that as more and more people learn about us, and all of a sudden they say, wait a minute, these guys are doing 3 internet games this year alone, right? We will have done 4 games in 2022. Like, show me another project that will do that, right?
And every time people have to mint, right?
Right. And so for us, again, this is this thing where like, again, I'm like unabashedly trying to show people that like, hey, look, we are an experience. We're no different than going to a music festival, to a concert, to a nice dinner, to a movie, right? Like, and what is the utility that you get from going to a nice dinner with your friends, or going to a music concert, or playing on a game show where you have the opportunity to win millions of dollars worth of NFTs, right? Like for us, like I truly look at like internet game as an experience. Our utility is fun. That's what we literally provide. And again, you can look and talk to really anybody in our community. You can ask them what it was like to participate in season 1, and they will say it was the most fun you've ever had. So, for me, from a speculator perspective, as more and more people learn about internet game and they realize the value that comes with the metaverse access card or the game token, buying or holding that particular thing in the case that you don't want to play is probably a good move, because again, I'm not going anywhere, right? I have years of runway due to my venture capital backing, and we're only going to become bigger and bigger and bigger as we continue to build our foundation. In terms of the business model, there's like, I would say 3 layers or like nuances to internet game as we work, right? So what we refer to as the internet game season is this like giant fanfare, right? Like it's this event on the internet. It's Coachella of the internet. It's gonna be this fun, freaking awesome experience where you're gonna be like, what the hell is going on? I'm just playing against thousands of other people in this really, really amazing game. And we're gonna have really, really great hosts and partnerships associated with that, right? So we have Gmoney this season. We have, again, a partnership with like an entertainment conglomerate in October, which you guys will hear about soon. And then we're partnering with another one of the largest NFT projects this December. And so like, we'll always have these kind of big events, and that's really where we explore different types of game types and really evolve the platform. But the other thing that I think is really, really exciting about what we're doing is what I refer to as internet game as a service, right? So what we actually allow for is for third-party communities to utilize our platform to run their own internet games purely for their community, right? So Proof could literally use our technology, the same technology that we use to run our games. They could rebrand it. They could token gate it so only Proof holders can play. They can put up their entire prize pool, whatever they want to do, and then they can run their own tournament, right? And so the reason that I'm really, really excited about this is because I think that this is like something where I can provide, or internet game can provide, this like interim utility and this interactive community engagement where it's like, it's less about like alpha, it's less about a dev update, it's less about like, look at this video, less about like whitelist giveaways. And it's something where like, hey, we can bring people together. We can have them have this awesome experience together, because I already know it provides that. And it's a turnkey solution where you, as a project dev, whether you're building a game or a Netflix show or a metaverse or whatever may have you, you don't need to divert your time and resources away from whatever your mission is. And you can just run your internet game every week, every month, whatever it is you want to do. And you can actually, again, whether this becomes a new whitelist meta, whether this becomes this interim utility where you can actually engage your existing community with something beyond a game of poker, or really utilize it to market and bring new people into your community. There's all these different types of things that we can do. And I think it's really, really important to provide this technology that we built to other folks, because like we need people to stick around in the NFT space. And if your project is going to take a long time to come to bear, this is a really great way to keep people engaged in a super simple manner.
Awesome. So, okay, so you've got the white label ability, and then there is obviously the seasons. So these are all the ways that value will be generated. So essentially those 500 NFTs are kind of like the only way that for people who want to speculate that they can get a little bit of the upside, as it grows, right? Otherwise, it's really mainly about really building community and enjoying fun.
Yeah. I would say if there's two things that we provide, so from a speculator point of view, sure, get a Mac, right? Like, and like again, for me, I'm not really like, I'm a technology operator, right? Like I build businesses. That's what I do. I'm not a trader, and I'm not the best person to ever talk to about like that kind of stuff. But for me, I think that, if there's two things that we provide to the NFT space in general, it's first and foremost fun. And the second thing that we provide is like truly interactive engagement that, again, we've built for everybody essentially.
So one thing I have learned from my time being in the NFT space, and I'm on all the major kind of Discord, servers, I would say, except for apes and punks, but they have the Telegram thing. One thing I've noticed is that when people say fun, a lot of people make fun of fun. They're like, when you say fun, it means I don't make money from it. Because most people who are in the NFT space right now, they're literally, they're just degens basically, mostly. I'd say like probably 80%, and that's probably, putting it mildly, are degens. So most people are looking at it, they're like, I'm not interested in anything other than, making money. And then there's that interactive part that you are talking about, which is, again, it's like that sense of belonging, building community, etc. So how many people have been playing the game so far? How have you experienced this mindset of that people just want to make money and are less interested in fun?
No, I love the question, and I love the poke. So for me, a couple things. One is that when we launched, right, we were very different from again the hype, generative PFP, all that kind of stuff, and people were again really confused by us. But then again, there's people who got it extraordinarily well. And so in season one, we did $2.1 million in top line, right? We had we had 8,000 game tokens minted, right, to play, right? But here's the more important thing. 85% of the game tokens that were minted were staked to play, right? 85%, right? So people minted this because they actually want to play in our games, right? And why? Because what we really kind of offer is the most ridiculous return that you could ever get. There's someone who played in our games, right? Multiple people who played in our games and won a Bored Ape, right? Like quite literally. And you talk about like, again, the gains that you can make where, you mint a free NFT and then it's maybe it goes up to point eight NFT and most of them don't. If that's the world that you're in and you just want to play in the free mint games, like go for it, right? Like you're just kind of sitting around like getting whitelist, trying to mint it and undercutting the floor. And there's plenty of people that just want to do that. And for sure, it's their livelihood, right? But I think that we actually have two very interesting ways that, again, the trader or the speculator or someone that's more focused on money can participate, right? One is that, in the case that they actually do well, that we will be the best return that you will ever get in the crypto space or in the NFT space ever, quite literally, right? It's $100 to play, and then you walk away with a Bored Ape or a Mutant Ape or a Cool Cat or a Neo Tokyo Citizen or a CloneX or a Zuki, right? Like how many times have you turned 0.11 ETH into 9 ETH?
What's the probability though?
I mean, it depends on how you perform, right? And I think that's the other really exciting thing about this is that like for us,
so it's not like complete luck.
Zero luck.
Okay.
It's 100%. In fact, like I wouldn't be able to do this if it was luck. It's skill, right? And the thing is that like but that's the thing is like it's not this thing where you're playing against a bunch of Fortnite players or Call of Duty players or anything like that where you're just going to get creamed. You're walking into this thing, right? Getting a sense of how to play, and then you're walking into this thing and you're playing blindly for the first time. But again, because it's a casual game, people can pick it up really quickly. That's the whole point of it, right? So for you, it's like yeah, this is a skill-based game. It requires your brain. It requires EQ, or like, it's not this thing where you're like, it's like really like, how do you think from a skill perspective? And so, but at the same time, the games are fun. And the other really interesting dynamic for something that we do is that your ticket to play, or our NFTs, are actually completely tradable. And so what I mean by that is that, like, basically if you mint a season 2 NFT and you start playing the games, and like all of a sudden after game 3, let's say all of a sudden Somi, you find yourself in 10th place, right? You could literally sell that game token to someone else if you wanted to, right? And they could actually take your position rank, right? So basically our floor price, our price action, our volume is actually meritocracy based, right? So in season 1, we had game tokens where someone was in like the, top 20, it's going for like 3 or 4 ETH, while a game token that's in like 100th place is going for, I don't know, 0.2 ETH, right? So all of a sudden the NFT and the value that is ascribed to it is actually based off of the position and how well someone played, as opposed to like the rarity of it in general. So, for plenty of alpha groups, I've seen, kind of, because people copy and paste and send it to me, they'll be like, yeah, like, play an internet game. Like, if you do well and, get a great score, you can flip this thing for a ridiculous price because someone wants to take your place because they want to go for all the marbles. They want to go for the Bored Ape, right? So for me, it's this thing where, like, okay, look, you can play in the free mints, or you can, mint these things that promise jam-packed utility for 0.1, 0.2 ETH, but then likely will fade away, as opposed to participating in this thing that is near term, right? Like, we do our mint, we start the games. And if you walk away with a Bored Ape, you walk away with a Bored Ape. If you trade out of the game after game 3 and you make a pretty penny, all the better, like, more power to you. But at the very least, you will also have a ton of fun, which I think that is, again, to a certain extent, being undervalued by these people.
Yeah, I love that. I love the concept. Okay, I really like the idea that you can buy someone else's, position. The reason is that maybe you were, maybe you were doing really well and you got to, say, level 3 or 6 or whatever, and you're like, oh my God, I made one mistake, then I know that if I get that next level thing, I will do well, right? So I really like that. How do you design the games?
That's a great question. I mean, so for us, again, every single season is different, right? So for us, what we focus on is this term of art is casual games, right? So in a lot of ways, like, for those of people that might be watching something like that, like, I always say that we're like a mix between HQ Trivia, which is like a mobile app game show, and Mario Party, right? So these are these super simple games, very, very easy to learn, etc. We have like a rubric that we have internally to ensure that these games are skill based in general, and again, easy to learn. So I beta test them with my mom and with my kid cousin, right? Because if my mom can do it, my kid cousin can do it. I'm like, all right, cool, we built something great. And then most importantly, are they fun? Right. So these games are, again, like 1-2 button games. There's a purpose, like there's a mission, or like we give you the instructions of like, hey, you need to get as many points by as possible making it through this particular maze, for example. Right. Or, hey, there's a memory game. Like, again, first, one of the games that we have is like a memory game, right? It's like the one where you're flipping over the tiles and like you're trying to get the two tiles to match, if you recall. So it's these types of games that we build, but again, it's just about ensuring that they're super simple, accessible, fun to play, and again, understood by everyone.
Okay, and then can you buy the season 2 ticket without having the season 1?
Yeah, for sure. Right. So again, the game token is basically something where, again, I'll tell everybody, like, we'll have had 4 games this year. Like, once 2022 is done, we'll have delivered on 4 different games, or 4 different seasons, or whatever you want to call it. And so in the case that this is something that's like, like, hey, this is this really amazing opportunity for me to walk away with a Azuki or a Clonex or whatever it is, and I just want to play in it because, like, I never know, right? So getting the game token is just a great way to kind of ensure that you got to get the best price on it. If you want to get the Mac, right, which again, there's only 500 of, that again gives you free access to everything. But in the case that you just want to try out this particular season, or you just want to try out the next season, or whatever it is, you can just participate in the public sale.
How do you get the tokens that people win? Like, where does the budget for that come from? Like the ape, the Azuki, etc.
Where does it come? Oh, so basically the way that it works is,
Prices.
we take 60% of the mint and put it towards the prize pool, right? So basically, again, we did $2.1 million in top line in season 1. And so we spent well over $1 million in a week to build out this crazy prize pool, which had like, again, Bored Apes, Mutant Apes, Cool Cats, Doodles, Neo Tokyo Citizens, Lands, My Pet, like, again, just the list went on and on and on. Right. So there's plenty of like, we had plenty of like, again, at the time, 100 ETH floors, 80 ETH floors, 50 ETH floors, like just made its way down. Right. We'd spent like 400 ETH on NFTs over the course of a week. So that's the model, is that we basically are a crowd-funded contest. We basically take most of the lion's share of the mint revenue and put it towards these games.
Very cool. Okay, and do the number of tokens change every season?
Yeah, exactly right. So I mean, it just really depends on the interest and how many people want to play. Like no matter what, like it doesn't really matter to me if 5,000 people play or 10,000 people play. Like for me, like what we're really building here, like the long-term vision of internet game, is this whole idea of being the Coinbase of fun, right? We think that through through casual games and amazing prizes, we can onboard the masses into Web3, right? And again, right now we're partnering with the Gmoneys of the world, and we're giving away Bored Apes. But there's a world one day where we're giving away, I don't know, courtside seats at a Knicks game, or a meet and greet with your favorite celebrity, and all these different types of things. So I think for us, like what we want to do is build this world of like these kind of fun, casual tournaments where people actually are in control of their own fate, their own destiny. Like, because people would rather compete than just kind of like, put their name into a hat and cross their finger, right? Like it's that much more engaging, it's that much more exciting. And so for us, it's just about providing people with these opportunities, providing people with the opportunity to win like things that money can't buy, or prizes that seem like just like the idea of like somebody walking away with, I don't know, a doodle or something like that, like because they played a game is just kind of it's amazing what can happen from that.
Do you know how many people are minting this time around?
No idea.
Or how many tokens are there? Oh yeah, you told me that the model is not like, it's not capped. So how does it work?
There's no cap. It's just the amount of people that play is the amount of people that play, and I take 60%. I'll take 60% of 10,000 mints.
But they have to buy a token, right? So you must be issuing a certain number of tokens.
I will.
Okay, and how does that work? What happens to the rest of the tokens? Is this on Ethereum?
Yes, but again, it's just like if 7,882 people mint, 7,882 people mint.
Okay, so you don't have like a predefined number of tokens.
It's irrelevant to us, right? And I think that, again, this goes back to this whole idea of NFT 1.0, where it's like it's a capped supply. There's scarcity here. Oh my God, it didn't sell out, or it did sell out. Like these are things that are they're going to become relics.
Yeah, I would love that. I think that would, because that puts so much pressure on the builders.
It's silly, frankly, right? And like that, the problem is, if digital scarcity is your only utility, quite literally, there's nothing really to it, right? And simultaneously, you talk, again, this is the things that don't make sense, where it's this thing where what makes Fortnite? It's the fact that they have millions of users, right? Millions of users, right? What makes, again, any hit TV show or movie a hit movie? It's because millions of people went to go watch it, right? Like, so if you're doing this thing where you're purposely capping the amount of people that can participate or play and all this kind of stuff, like it's completely, like it's the complete opposite of what you want. What you want is mass adoption. What you want is the proliferation of your product. You want people to play your game at scale, right? So for me, it's like I want more and more people to participate in an internet game. It's good for everybody. You're gonna have more fun. There's gonna be more prizes. It's just a win-win.
No, I love it. I love it. So if I wanted to participate, where do I begin?
Yeah, I mean, if you want to participate, I mean, I would say one, just join the Discord and hang out, read about us. I mean, you'll see that like we're really serious. You can ask people what it was like to play in season one. We've examples, and there's YouTube videos that people have made that are really, really awesome, where they like kind of went through their entire experience. So yeah, I would just say get involved with the community. In the case that, anyone here that's listening, watching, whatever it is, if you like what we're doing over the course of the long term, consider getting a game token, consider getting a Mac. There's a ton of utility associated with those. And then at the very least, again, we're trying to throw the biggest party in the NFT space right now, right? It's a really quiet time. There's so many NFT projects that are of quality that are just sitting on their hands because they don't want to mint. And so for everyone that's still here, like we want to do something really awesome for the community. So we would love to have, just a great showing, because, what else are you going to do?
Yeah, no, super exciting. It sounds super interesting. I'm really all up for anything that innovates in the space in a way that we are not stuck with this current model of having to come up with these scarcity models that don't make sense, that sometimes that is kind of like you're having to kind of force scarcity just to create some kind of utility, value. Awesome. Okay, well, where do you want people to go from this? Because I know that you've got your mint coming up, and we want to give people an opportunity to discover you.
Yeah, no, I mean, in short, check out our website. Our website's super cool. That's internet.game. I don't know if you've seen the new one, but the new one is super cool.
Okay, I will check. Yeah,
Yeah,
internet.game.
internet.game. Yeah, so I'm curious to get your thoughts on it. And then beyond that, we're on Twitter, we're on Discord. I would much rather have people in Discord because I like live in there. I like live in Discord. So I love talking to people. I love answering questions. I love sharing what we're doing. We have a real vision here and we're not going anywhere. So
Yeah,
would love for people to get involved.
awesome. All right. Thank you so much, Krish. This has been super interesting.
It was a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me, Somi. It was awesome.
Okay, so what happened here is that we stopped recording and then I started playing this game from the previous season, and it's just so much fun that's making me think like I'm gonna buy this for all of my team and we're all gonna play together.
And then that's kind of when I started saying like that was probably one of the coolest things that also came out of internet game, where a lot of people, like, again, at any office, right? Like there's the crypto degen and the crypto and like all their office mates are like kind of making fun of them for being into NFTs and stuff like that. You know how there's always that one guy, but then he would show this to his coworkers, and they're like, wait a minute, this NFT actually is the first NFT that actually makes sense to me. And so what would happen is you actually had people like playing together, right? Like entire offices would play in the internet games, right? Like we had entire households, families, right? Brother Bear showed it to dad, and dad's like, wow, this looks like a really fun thing for us to do together. And so the dad got a game token for everyone in the family, and they all just like sat down and played together, talked through the strategy, all this kind of stuff. So again, in a lot of ways, like this was this thing where people were like literally going to each other's houses, hanging out and like figuring out their strategies and playing together. Entire teams developed, right? We actually had two distinct teams that came out of internet game, right? There was this one called Team Vector, had 60 people, right? They even bought additional game tokens in the case people got eliminated so that they could bring them back in, right? It was all these really, really crazy things that happened. And I think like the whole idea of like, like, again, you and your coworkers getting together and getting a bunch of game tokens playing together, you will have this really, really amazing time with them.
Yeah, definitely. Like even if you are not in the same place, you could, because our team is international, like you could be, even if you're not in the same place, just the fact that you're all playing it, and maybe you have like a
it's something to talk about. It's something to do.
Yeah, exactly, right? Like you have like maybe a WhatsApp group or a
all of this happened. People again, all of this happened. People would message me and be like, "Yo, man, this game is really, really hard." Like that, like we're talking about it in our group chat. We're talking about it in our Discord. Discord servers had dedicated channels to internet game where people that from that particular alpha group or from that particular community go and discuss season one and talk strategies and help each other. Right. So it's like an amazing thing about, again, community and bringing people together around fun.
Yeah.
Internet provides.
I love it. I have to say, like,
now that you see it,
yeah, like it's just so much. And I think the reason why I like it is because I got the first one right, and then I thought it was gonna be all the same. That was like beginner's luck, right?
Right. And now you're like, okay, holy crap! And now you're playing this memory game, and you see, again, like you said, like I don't play games, etc. But you're having fun playing this kind of tiny little game.
So, and you said that like you have to try and get it right in as few.
Because that's how we deliver points to you, right? So if, again, I think the fastest you could, the least amount of moves theoretically would be 16. And that's if you got it right immediately right out the game. So you got the first two right, the second two right, the third two right, whatever it is.
This is impossible. Now it's not working.
And that's the beauty of the game, right? And again,
and it keeps moving, right? So you can't.
It keeps moving, yeah. Exactly. So
it's frustrating though. It's really fun. Yeah. I have to let people go and play themselves. So I'm gonna can I put the link to the first to the game that I'm playing now, which is from the first one. So
just because, again, I do want your community and folks to understand what it's like, go for it.
Yeah, I'll do that. Okay, this is so much fun. Yeah. All right, thank you so much.
Thank you, man.
All right, thank you. I hope you enjoyed this conversation with Krish Jagirdar. Be sure to check out Internet Game. I gave it a try and it seems so much fun. If you enjoyed this podcast, be sure to subscribe to it on Apple, Spotify, or any other one of your favorite podcast channels. And don't forget to give it a 5-star rating and write a review. The full interviews are also available on my YouTube channel, The Somi Arian Show.